Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Doctor Who, the 2016 Christmas special. It's called The Return of Dr. Mysterio. Full spoilers for the episode, as always. This marked the end of a
marathon for you, yeah.
marathon. I was going to look for a fancier word to just understand the turmoil of trying to catch up in time, because at the start of this month, I hadn't started season 7 of Doctor Who yet. That's where I was. That's how much Doctor Who
But
I've
you thought,
watched.
you got a whole month. That's easy.
Yeah, which is why I left it to the last 3 days to watch the last 2 seasons. Because I'm awkward like that. Yeah. So I've watched a lot of Doctor Who in the last couple of days.
It's interesting because that will make this episode, its quality will stand on its own. Whereas to me, obviously, it's like, oh, I haven't had Doctor Who in over a year. So it's like, even if it's a little bit of a let down, the Christmas ones, they always feel like a little bit special because you're getting it back after so long. Whereas for you, as they've all been so soon, and you've had some great episodes at the end of season 9.
For me, the exact phrase I said get into this episode, after just literally watching last year's Christmas special and the catch-up, was one last hurdle. One last hurdle to do this. Now, I don't like to come across negative, it was tiring having a deadline and getting through all the episodes. The episode itself, actually, that was a lot of fun. Superhero focused. We were introduced to this character named Grant that the Doctor ran into when he was a kid. Not the Doctor, Grant was a kid in New York. And he gives him this gemstone that he accidentally swallows, and it gives him superpowers. But there's a lot of comic book references and superhero sort of homages.
So many Superman things specifically. Because this basically plays like Superman the movie for a lot of it, just with the Doctor Who twist.
There's a lot of Superman in the movie. In fact, there's exact lines of dialogue taken from that movie.
There is. Yeah.
In particular, when they're setting up the interview on the roof, there's a lot of things in there that were very exact.
It's as well when she asked him about the X-ray, and it's the exact same conversation.
Yeah, it's very, very similar. Although the funniest comic book reference I actually got was right at the start for me.
Which one?
It's when Doctor's looking through the comic book, and he's like, here, have you noticed this? And he shows him Superman, and he flips back to a page with Clark Kent, and it was like this moment of realization, like, wait a minute, is he getting at the fact that they're the same person? Is this what the Doctor's proud of?
Yeah.
And then it was that, and that really made me laugh. That was probably the funniest.
Yeah. Then there was a lot of just names. Siegel and Schuster. We had Lombard was her surname, obviously.
Yeah. Even the spinning globe on the roof of the corporation was very Daily Planet.
I even think her being called Lucy was a reference to Lucy Lane.
Yeah, or a reporter even. The whole setup.
Yeah. She was obviously playing as Lois.
Yeah. So all that stuff was fun, and obviously we're fans of these characters because we have a DC Comics podcast. We talk about these Superman and all that.
These were just Superman and Lois analogues.
They were, and they go through all that, and that was fun. That was a lot of fun. I think typically the villain plot was kind of weak, but not necessarily out of ordinary for one of these kinds of episodes.
No, it's rare for the Christmas ones to be anything that heavy.
Yeah, I think this is honestly probably one of my favourite Christmas ones because it appealed to a lot of my sensibilities. But it did share a lot of the same problems that the reasons why I normally don't like the Christmas ones as much as the regular episodes. This also shares those problems though, in the sense that obviously we're in this weird place where he's just lost the companion that he had and he's not got the new one yet. So this one's kind of a weird exception. But often he'll ignore the companion for the Christmas one while he goes off and just has his own adventure. And then on top of that, the villains tend to be very standalone because it's the Christmas episode and stuff like that. So it usually feels kind of disconnected, even though there was obviously a couple of really big things here that connected it to what had just happened last year. He mentions the 24-year night with River, on the planet.
This feels usually they're disconnected, even because they come typically either at the midpoint or at the end of a season, depending on if we're starting in spring or September. And they're usually they're just their own thing, whereas this feels like a sequel to last year's Christmas special.
Yeah. Even Nardole being around was a direct reference. Which, by the way, I like this one way more than last year's Christmas special.
I did too. I thought last year's was fun. Don't get me wrong. I think it plays a lot into the sensibilities of just being a Who fan.
It had a nice ending. The ending with River was sweet. That was nice. But the The actual plot with the big robot dudes, with the head and
I get it.
all
It was
that.
it was a typical Christmas episode.
Yeah.
It wasn't in the worst for me, nowhere near, but it was
Not
just
worse,
mid
just
tier.
typical is a good word for it. It was a very
Yeah.
typical Christmas episode. That said, though, I did like the one before that, Last Christmas with Nick Frost.
The Inception-y one.
Inception-y one.
Yeah, yeah. That
But
was pretty good.
the reason why I liked it though was not so much the Inception-y angle though. It was more
No.
the almost like the Thing type thing where they're all in this base and there's
Yeah.
something here. It turns into Inception, but it
But it
kinda
starts as the Thing, yeah, it
yeah.
does.
And
No,
that's
I'm-
just
I'm-
mixing things that I like, so
Yeah.
I'm in for that. Which kind of describes a lot of when I like Who and when I don't like Doctor Who. Is like, because I think the plots are never actually that great for the most part.
Not sure I'd agree with that.
They're very light and fluffy. They're very, let's make up some rules. And that's not necessarily always a bad thing. But for me, when I really like an episode of Doctor Who is when it's, oh, we're doing something that's really appealing to me. We're doing our take on, a movie I like. Or
That's maybe more true since Matt Smith took over. But in the stuff before that, I think the storytelling itself was a lot stronger. There was a lot less of Doctor Who doing something. It was a lot less light and fluffy. I know Matt Smith gets compared to being like a fairy tale.
Probably my favourite scene, which is funny because it's not even anything to do with the superhero stuff, is when Lucy's threatening the toy to interrogate him, and she keeps squeezing it. And he's like, "Oh, Mr. Hoffel will feel pain if you don't." And every time he'd like pause and she'd go to squeeze it again, and you'd hear the sound of the toy squeaking throughout his answer.
It reminds me of, I can't remember what it was. I think it might have been Community. He breaks the pen, and he's like, "Oh, look, you can feel for a pen, or a pencil, or whatever it is." It's like
once you give it a once you give it a human-like quality, like you refer to it as something with feelings, from that point on, you will feel compassion for it.
Yeah, and it's kind of the same thing with this, just because it's got a face on.
Yeah, and a noise. It makes a noise.
But it makes a noise as well. But like you give it a human-like quality because it has a face, and then you hurt it.
It's almost a dark joke because the noise is kind of the screams of pain. It's actually, if this was a person, this would be a really dark, sinister scene.
Yeah.
But no, I think all that stuff was fun. I think those characters were very likable. I think they did a really good job with the filmmaking here to actually emulate what I would call the cheesy 90s comic book movie, where like every time I went to an establishing shot of like the building with the globe, it felt like a kind of fake looking 90s comic book movie, but I think that was intentional. I think that, although don't get me wrong, Doctor Who's effects can be very hit and miss anyway, but at least here it kind of fit the aesthetic of what they were going for.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, just the effects have improved over the last few years. But like you say, like this feels like it wasn't just low budget; it was intentional.
Yeah, because even when he lands in the street, he picks Lucy up and he drops her off in the street. That street feels like a fake street. It feels like a back lot where I expect to see movies from the 90s being made. That's what I kept going back to, that feeling of this looks like a movie that was made in the 90s.
I get that, and that's the thing. And we know Doctor Who shoots so much out on the streets in general, Cardiff especially, that they could do this easily if they wanted to. So it felt like intentional because of that.
So the main sort of plot with the characters, with Grant and lying to Lucy about who he is and having this double life and ultimately realising that she likes him for him, and it's about him realising who he really is. It's kind of thematically works with what the Doctor's plot's been for the last couple of years, where it's been about him realising what kind of man he is and all that. So it fits thematically like that. Actually, one little thing, the flashback to the high school time period,
Yeah.
it almost felt like instead of doing like a super... Obviously it's got the X-ray vision, you can't look at anyone, that's a Superman joke. But the actual mood of it and the music made me think way more of Kick-Ass. I don't know if that's just me.
No, I got that as well.
It sounded...
I think it's just...
It sounded like all the what's the name of the band?
Prodigy.
Prodigy, yeah. The Prodigy track that plays in Kick-Ass. I don't know, it was one of the things that stuck out to me. I kept feeling these references to things, and that one stuck out almost because it wasn't a Superman or...
Yeah.
That was like a much more modern superhero reference. But no, so we had all that. We had the villains, they had their heads open, they were kind of goofy.
Oh yeah, because they were kind of the same people from... They're in the last Christmas one as well, aren't they?
Yeah. And
Which is why it feels like a sequel.
And they had the guns in their heads, and
It's kind of cool, kind of typical goofy Doctor Who stuff, which I like a lot.
I'm kind of take it or leave it on the goofy villains, honestly. Not Normally I can just kind of ignore them, and I care about what the characters are going through more than anything else.
I get that, but I have a lot of fun with these sort of things.
But yeah, so superhero saves the day, catches the ship that had the bomb on it.
Yeah,
the ship bomb that was going to wipe out New York and all the rest of it. Another small moment I liked was the Doctor eating some sushi while he was spying, sneaking around.
That's the way he was just like, yeah, I brought a snack, so what?
I believe the exact phrase, it's a sign of a pro, was what he said after that.
That was it, yeah.
Sign of a pro that he brought a snack. Yeah, so which tends to be my favourite things about Doctor Who. It's the Doctor being his quirky self and doing these little things around the chaos, and the actual plots, can be silly, can be whatever, but it's the characters that I kind of come back for more than anything else. Although occasionally it does do really cool sci-fi concepts, and this one worked for me a lot because it was a superhero story, which I obviously
love. Yeah,
plays to my sensibilities.
The scene I really liked was in the interview, where she kind of was realizing about Grant, and he was like, he decides to take the mask off, and she goes, oh, he's never lied, not about anything, and it looks up, and he's just got the mask back on. It's just, that was fun. Yeah,
it was funny, it was charming, you cared about the characters, even though these were the one-off characters that we're probably never going to see again.
Yeah.
Which is actually one of my complaints about Doctor Who in a weird way, is that so many of the characters they set up that I might like in some episodes never come back. Which is why in the last couple of years I did like that there was that core little group from 100 or so years ago.
Oh yeah, Madame Vastra and
yeah, those three, and Strax.
And Jenny.
Yeah, I liked that there was a core little group in a time period that you kept going back to. Yeah. It made them feel...
They do have a name as a group, and I hate that I can't remember it.
Some Doctor
I feel
Who
ashamed.
Fan yeah. How dare you? I'm the casual fan here. You're the one who's meant to know this stuff.
Aye. I do feel quite ashamed of myself right now.
So even though I didn't like a lot of season 7, I did like that it introduced that whole aspect with them.
Yeah, I get that. But I think these ones, like you say, you cared about them. I think it helps that they're so based on pre-established characters that everyone knows.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of just take them as that anyway, so you kind of have a massive head start.
There is definitely other ones, though, where they'll be one-off characters who I really like, but they'll just be there to die at the end, or they'll just be there and they'll never come back again. It's kind of
Yeah, it happens a lot.
So that kind of sucks. But I thought it was a fun Christmas special. Mostly inconsequential in the sense that the plot wasn't that important to anything going forward, other than the Doctor having his moment at the end where he, because it's about their romance and he's talking about happy endings and sad endings and happy beginnings, and because he's just had this experience of River's sort of last, because presumably River went off to the library
after that.
So
yeah. I do like, though, obviously you say there's no consequences. Nardole seems to be sticking around from what we can see.
Oh yeah, sure. But that wasn't really because of the plot. That was more just he was already there.
Well, yeah, but it was thanks to these two, because he was only introduced in the last Christmas special, and then was seemingly killed off in that, like you say, just discarded.
Yeah, when he showed up at the start, I'm like, wait a minute, is this set before the last one? What's going on?
Yeah, because he wasn't killed off, was he? He was just a head inside the body, sharing it.
Yeah, with the other that was married to River. So
yeah.
But no, he seems to be sticking around. I actually liked his small line as well, because he shows up in the TARDIS and he's like, I got these beads from whatever. I ruled wise, but fair.
Yeah, 12th century Constantinople, I believe it was. So
I ruled wise, but fair.
I like the idea that he just kind of goes off on his own adventures, and I'm sure we're going to get some books about him now, because that's typically what Doctor Who does. Yeah,
it's exactly the sort of thing they expanded in novels and crap, don't they?
It was the same way how last Christmas special, River mentions how the Doctor's never noticed when she's took the TARDIS before, because she just returned.
Was there tons of stories?
Later. Yeah. So I'm sure that now there'll just be books of just stories with her in the TARDIS.
Again, best part of last year's Christmas special, and it's weird for me talking because I just watched this right before I watched this one.
Yeah.
So to me, it's still fresh. But the best part of that was him pretending to not know what the TARDIS was, and.
Oh man, that was glorious. When he's just going in, he goes, it's before, he's like, finally, it's my turn.
Yeah.
And then he gets in, he's just like, what?
Again,
it's bigger?
Yeah, that's the thing for me. It's the characters and them reacting to the crazy stuff rather than... it's not quite like Scream Queens, but it's kind of in the ballpark for that for me, if you know what I mean.
I feel that in the Christmas ones, especially. Yeah. I feel like in the seasons themselves, I expect more. And I feel more often than not, I get more.
I think the reason why I'm specifically homing that in here, because it's the first time I've ever reviewed Doctor Who on this channel, but B, I just watched a lot of it, and C, we are going to be reviewing season 10 week to week. So I'm kind of setting you up for our different viewpoints. You know, Connor's a big Doctor Who fan. I'm someone who enjoys it, but I'm not in love with it.
Yeah, and
So
I'm also kind of over Moffat in general. I mean, he's pulled it out of the bag a little bit towards the end of the last season, and then this. Don't get me wrong, but I'm ready for him to move on as showrunner. And when they announced it and they said, "Oh, but he's got one more season still in him," I was like,
he's
"God damn
doing
it,
10?
just go." He's doing 10, and then we got after that. So
he's doing 11 as well?
no, after 10 we get the new one.
Okay,
So I'm kind of looking forward to after 10 more than I am 10 itself.
I think that's fair. We have a new companion coming though. That should be
We do, Bill.
fun. Bill is our name? Yeah.
Yes.
Is that short for something else?
I don't think so. I believe they revealed a.
It was a while ago.
Like maybe back in May or something like that.
I remember seeing the photos of her when they first revealed
Because
her.
they did a short little video where they did her like reveal and like said her name and stuff like that, and yeah, they did a good job of establishing the sort of character she was just in like 20 seconds.
I like that Nardole seems to be sticking around though, because as much as it's always had that like Doctor and companion vibe, I actually really like it when there's like 3 people on the ship instead of
Some of the
2.
best times were when we had Rory there as well.
Yeah, and it was 2 of them. It was Amy and Rory, or
you know, like Rose and Captain Jack.
Yeah, Captain Jack. Who, it was funny actually watching the last like 3 years of Doctor Who. He was referenced like 2 or 3 times over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah, so now I'll be interested to see how we shape up with Doctor Who season 10 come May. So look forward to doing that. But that's all our thoughts on the Christmas special. So thank you very much for watching. Like and subscribe and all that stuff. Let us know what you thought of the Christmas special in the comments below. And we'll see you in May for season 10.